I'd like to start the press conference by Prime Minister Kishida. The Prime Minister has a statement. In executing policies, in order to break through the challenges that we are confronted with once in several decades, we have started the coalition government with new cabinet members of the LDP and the Komeito party that is abundant of experience as well as a track record. COVID-19, as well as the situation in Ukraine, as well as the Sino-U.S. tensions around Taiwan, as well as global soaring prices, both home and abroad in Japan, there are various challenges that we face that would change the course of history. In the previous upper house elections, we would like to have the confidence of casting the support to our cabinet as early as possible to take shape, and also for the cabinet to provide for contingencies and to answer the expectations of the voters. I have taken this opportunity to reshuffle the cabinet, starting from demanding the budget requests at the end of August, as well as at the end of this year, formulating the budget, as well as revising the taxation system, and in order to do so, into submitting a bill to next year's that I'd like to move to the stage of actually executing on what I have promised. With heightened tensions in the international society, we'd like to build a new international order for the next generation post the Cold War, and we will fully devote ourselves to defend the peace and stability and safety of our country. In this reshuffle, I have maintained the backbone, and in order to prepare for contingencies, I have asked for the expertise as well as experience. We have the Mr. Matsuno, who is the Cabinet Secretary, as well as Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi, as well as Finance Minister Shunichi Suzuki, as well as Minister of Land Infrastructure and Transportation Tetsuo Saito, as well as Taishiro Yamagiwa for economic revitalization. I have retained them. And I will focus on 5 things. The first is, in order to further strengthen the formation to protect the safety as well as the security of this country. The issue that is one of the most important towards the end of this year is to further fundamentally strengthen defense capabilities. We will study the substance that would be necessary to enhance defense capability, as well as we will study the size of the budget that would be required, as well as we will strongly promote in unison to secure together these sources of finances. For that experience as a Minister of Defense, since the Defense Agency, as well as the Parliamentary Secretary, as well as the Chairman of the Defense Committee at the LDP, as well as also having experience as the Chairman of the Security Committee at the Lower House. We have asked Yasukazu Hamada to be reassigned as defense minister again, as he has well-versed intelligence into defense policy as well as our security policy for him to exert leadership. And second, as we see more integration of security as well as the economy, in order to execute on the economic security promotion law, we need to further urge the strengthening of supply chains, as well as to prevent the leakage of sensitive technology. I have asked Sanae Takaichi, who has promoted the policies regarding economic security and has led the headquarters of economic security as the policy research chief of LDP to coordinate with the industrial sector as well as related ministries and agencies. And third is to reinvent our economy through realizing a new capitalism, investing in people as well as fostering startup as well as green transformation as well as digital transformation. We will further strengthen the formation in realizing this. First, general coordination for the new capitalism and for startup. In fact, I'd like to ask Dai Yamagiwa, who has been in a position to, in fact, coordinating the execution plan. He will retain his post. In fact, investment into people is very crucial for new and realizing new capitalism. In the last 20 years, we have actually seen the spring wage offensive, which rose by 2.07%, which is the second highest in the last 20 years. And in fact, the summer bonus, which was risen for the first time, which rose for the first time in 4 years, as well as continuing on this momentum of raising the minimum wage, which was the largest ever. And we will fundamentally strengthen further investment into people, which includes strengthening vocational training as well as to set the stage and environment for further wage hikes. And on top of that, I have assigned Taro Kono as digitalization minister to further strongly advance digital transformation, which is an important investment area for new capitalism. And further revitalize the digital agency's operations, which marks a year since, very soon since it has been started. And I hope that he will advance with his breakthrough capabilities as his execution hallmark capabilities to further accelerate our digital transition. And Minister in charge of green transformation together was digital transformation. For the Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, the profound expertise in industry and economy, policy and energy. By having experience as a minister in charge of economic revitalization, I have assigned Yasutoshi Nishimura. Green transformation is on the premise of affordable and stable energy supply that needs to be secured, as well as in coping with the shortage that is expected by a slim margin in this winter, will also be included in his portfolio of utilizing nuclear power that I expect him to steadily study. And the new phase, transformation into the new phase, as well as to further strengthen the response to COVID-19, which is the fourth focus. We do see, in fact, areas that are seeing gradually lower cases or declining number of cases in the surge of the seventh wave. I'd like to thank all of those related to medical as well as welfare on this, and how are we going to cope with this in the infectious disease law, and how would COVID-19 be addressed in that law. And without losing or missing the opportunity, we need to move on to the new stage of existing with Corona-19, and therefore it is necessary to advance new challenges to establish the infectious disease crisis management agency in preparation of a infectious crisis. And also we will task Yamagiwa to act on that, as well as for the Health and Welfare and Labor Minister. We'd like to ask or reassign again Katsunobu Kato to take every possible measure in welfare and public health.
Fifth, the enhancement of policies for the children and measures for declining birth rate. Next year, we are going to start the agency for children and family. We make sure we make a progress, and policies for the children and the measures for declining birth rate should be enhanced drastically we appoint someone who has a young and fresh perspective. He is the director of youth division of LDP. We appoint Masanobu Ogura as the minister in charge. So these are the priority challenges that the cabinet is going to tackle. In order to make it happen, we need a stable operation of the government, particularly the chairperson of the National Public Safety and also Minister for Disaster Management. We are going to enter the season with a lot of disasters. We have to have the system with the responsibility put in place. And also, as a chairperson of the National Public Safety, we need an examination of the assassination of our former Prime Minister Abe, and security structure has to be rebuilt. Therefore, we appoint a person who has served as the State Minister for Reconstruction and also the chairperson for the lower house, land and transportation, and also in disaster in Hanshin Awaji. He served to take a lead in Hyogo Prefecture. And since then, he has been working on enhancement of the capability for disaster management. We ask Mr. Koichi Tani to take the lead for internal affairs and communications minister. We appoint a person who has served as a advisor to the Prime Minister and State Minister for Internal Affairs. We appoint Mr. Minoru Terada so that telecommunication business can be rebuilt. We lower the mobile phone charge, 5G, optical fiber, digital infrastructure preparation, and also he is tasked with accelerating promotion of My Number card. For Justice Minister, we appoint a person who has served as the State Minister for Justice and also chairperson of the registration or the legal committee of the lower house. He has a great experience. We appoint Mr. Yasuhiro Hanashi as a Justice Minister. As the Minister for Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, we appoint Ms. Keiko Nagaoka, who served as a State Minister of the Ministry and also Chairperson of the Education and Science Committee, so that she is going to promote education and science. For the Minister for Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, we have aggression by Russia in Ukraine. We see the increasing price of the food, and food security has been a challenge. The person who is appointed has been served as a parliamentary vice minister for agriculture and also director for agriculture. He is the expert of agriculture and fisheries. Mr. Tetsuro Nomura is going to take the position. For Minister of Environment, we appoint a person who has served as Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary and also State Minister for Transportation, and also as the Secretary General for LDP 2050 Carbon Neutrality Realization Headquarters. He is Akihiro Nishimura. For the carbon neutrality in 2050, he is tasked with preparation of the society. Reconstruction from the great earthquake in eastern Japan continues to be priority challenge for our administration. Minister of Reconstruction is going to be the person who is from Miyagi, and also he has served as the State Minister for Reconstruction and also special chairperson of the committee for the great earthquake in eastern Japan. Mr. Kenya Akiba is going to be the person. For the Minister in charge of Regional Revitalization and Okinawa Northern Territories Affairs, Mr. Naoki Okada is appointed. He has served as a Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary and State Minister for the Finance. He is going to be in charge of the realization of strong Okinawa economy and promotion of the measures for Northern territories. He is going to put all-out effort for innovation capability, sending a message, and digital garden city state the concept and regional revitalization. This is a concept for the personnel for the cabinet. And on top of that, we would like to address former Unification Church matter. First of all, as much as I know, I don't have any relationship with the organization. Individual lawmaker has the wide range of the communication with a wide range of the population, so that we can receive the wider support from the public. So this is part of the political activities. Freedom of the religion is guaranteed in the constitution. However, about the relationship with the organization who has the potential societal issue, we have to be very careful so that public would not have suspicions. In order to eliminate the suspicion among the public, in forming a cabinet, I gave the instruction so that with the responsibility as a policy maker, the relationship with the organization has to be inspected, and based on that, it has to be reviewed. And those who have agreed with that have been appointed as a cabinet members. And I sent two instructions. First, the freedom of the religion in the constitution has to be respected. However, religious organizations, as the member of the society, they have to abide by the relevant laws and regulations. It is needless to say. So if there are activities that deviate from the laws, that has to be addressed in a solemn and rigorous manner. Secondly, Justice Minister and relevant ministers have to be fully prepared so that there will be consultation for illegal activities such as malicious sales activities and also saving the victims. These are the administration's priority, and we make sure we run the government so that we have a trust from the public. Since I became the Prime Minister, I focused on listening to the voice of the people carefully and achieve the politics with the trust and sympathy. And I continue to focus on that. With the two the elections, we have the mandate from the public. We transform that so that we can proceed with the policies. Government and ruling parties will work together so that with the all-out effort, we can overcome the difficult challenges. We appreciate understanding and support from the public.
So we'd like to entertain questions. Please, if you're asked, please step forward to the microphone and also identify your affiliation as well as your name in asking the question. First, I'd like to ask Kyodo News Agency. I'm Kyodo News Agency. This reshuffle, as well as the reshuffling of LDP leadership, we did see Secretary General, as well as, in fact, the Secretary General of the LDP has been retained. And in the cabinet, your Cabinet Secretary, Finance, Foreign Minister has been retained, as well as the Vice President of the LDP. It is not a small change as a reshuffle. We see domestic issues on soaring prices, as well as COVID-19, as well as there are issues related to diplomacy regarding China, North Korea, and Russia. We also have the revision of the Constitution, as well as how we're going to advance doubling income as new capitalism is halfway. What is your focus, and what is your top priority, and how would you name this reshuffling? As you have asked, Japan, both home and abroad, are facing various challenges which come across only once every several decades. And at this reshuffle of the cabinet, basically we will secure sustaining basic policies, as well as to react speedily to transform into a new formation, as well as those who have expertise as well as experience to assign those to replace replaced positions or ministerial positions in order to actually deliver on policies. My focus is to prepare for contingencies. And the naming, as you've asked it, it is a cabinet that will deliver on its policies. And going forward, we have the budget requests at the end of August, as well as the formation of the budget at the end of this year, as well as the revision of taxation, as well as we will actually propose bills to next year's diet. So it is a period of full execution on what we have promised as policies. And what is my top priority was your question, especially in overcoming COVID-19, revitalizing our economy, as well as to build a society and economy that could be sustained is my focus, as well as heightened tensions in the international situation, protecting or defending our safety and security of Japan, to build a new international order that eyes the next era are the two focal points. By combining all of our policies, will be centered around these two policies and delivering on our policies.
続きまして幹事社の東京新
Next, we take a question from Kanasugi-san from Tokyo newspaper. I'm Kanasugi from Tokyo and Chunichi newspaper. Let me ask about former Unification Church. You said that in order to avoid the suspicion among the public, we have to be very careful about the relationship that may have societal issues. So you also said that the politics that is trusted by the public, as the LDP said that there's no the relationship as the party, there's no investigation. However, network of the lawyers of the victims said that the relationship between the politics and the former Unification Church has to be examined. And also public polls, more than 80% of the people said there should be the truth revealed. So about the relationship with the former Unification Church, is there any plan as a party to do the investigation so that all the information and the facts are revealed, and also the selective different surnames for the married couples, LGBT, and the constitution? It is pointed out the concept of LDPs and that of the former Unification Church are similar. How do you see the impact of the former Unification Church on LDP policies? And former Prime Minister Abe sent a video to the affiliated organization, sent a respect to the President Han. Do you think what he did was problematic? You asked a question about the relationship between LDP and the former Unification Church. About the relationship with the former Unification Church, I mentioned in my opening remarks. So between LDP and former Unification Church, we do not have the relationship as an organization. We have been consistent with that stance. However, in order to achieve the politics that is trusted by the public to the party members, I said that with the responsibility as a policymakers, individually, the relationship has to be reviewed, and based on that result, that has to be revisited or reviewed. And on top of that, as I also mentioned earlier, to the relevant ministries and agencies, I gave instructions. The religious organizations have to abide by the rules and regulations and laws. It is needless to say that if there's any activities that deviate from the laws, that has to be addressed in a rigorous manner. And Justice Minister and relevant ministries should prepare for consultation for the victims of the malicious the cells, and also the saving the victims. So these are the instructions that I gave. Based on that, we would like to work on restoring the trust from the people. You also asked a question that if Unification Church made an impact on LDP policies. Well, in the process of LDP policies, decision making, we listen to the voice of the people, and also there are explanation from the ministries and agencies, and we have discussions with the experts. Through the process, we make a decision on policies. So when we think about such a process of policy making in LDP, the policies of the former Unification Church has impact. We don't think there are impact on LDP policy making. You also asked the former Prime Minister Abe's video message to the affiliated organization. So it was a judgment made by Mr. Abe back then as a Prime Minister. So under what circumstances the decision was made? I am not aware of that. So I refrain from making a direct comment on that. However, we have to make sure people do not question what we do. So with the responsibility as a policy maker, relationship with the former Unification Church has to be examined. So the rigorous examination has to take place. This is our understanding.
From here, we'd like to ask for questions from other reporters. Please raise your hand if you have a question, and when you are asked, please advance to the microphone from TBS, please. I'm Nakamura from TBS on policies regarding China. In fact, China, in its response to Speaker Pelosi from the United States visiting Taiwan, has conducted large-scale military drills from the 4th to 7th, as well as it has continued to do so on the 8th as well. And in fact, China's ballistic missile for the first time landed in Japanese EEZ, exclusive economic zone. How are you going to cope with China, who has cut off dialogue? And are you prepared to have a top-level summit? And China claiming that Japan is not in a position arguing about the issue of Taiwan. What is your response as the government? First, the Chinese missile in fact, has landed in the neighboring seas of Japan, including the EEZ of Japan. It is a grave issue that relates to the security of our people and the safety of Japan. We have strongly condemned as well as expressed protest to China. In fact, China's act is, in fact, has a grave consequences on the regional situation, and we have immediately asked China to immediately stop their drills. To China, we will claim for what should be claimed, and we will have dialogue in seeking what we should ask. And mutually, we would like to build, as I have mentioned in the past, that it's necessary to build a mutual relationship that is constructive and at this moment, it is ever more important to have open communication. Of the top level summit between China and Japan, there is nothing decided at this moment. However, Japan, regarding communication with China, is constantly open. And on the Taiwan issue, the position of Japan, our basic position to Taiwan, has remained consistent from the past. In the joint statement between Japan and China, based on that in 1972, we will have, in fact, a workable relationship with Taiwan that will be sustained, as well as to seek peace and stability of Taiwan Straits, which is essential to the peace and stability of this region is important. And we expect, in fact, a peaceful solution to the Taiwan issue, which is our basic policy. To peace and stability, which is important, which includes the Taiwan Strait, we have directly communicated it to China, and we need to clearly, equally importantly, communicate it clearly. And the United States, as well as other like-minded states, we will remain in close contact to closely monitor the situation of the Taiwan Strait.
NHK の伏見さん。
伏見さん from NHK. I'm Fushimi from NHK. Thank you. Let me ask about economic measures. So COVID-19 is protracted with the increase of the price. There is the increasing impact on people's lives in the economic aspect. On August 6th, you said that there have to be the discussion for the economic measures toward the autumn the diet session. Do you have any plan to revisit supplementary budget? The imminent challenge we are facing is the COVID-19 and also the price increase. Necessary the fiscal measures implemented without hesitation in a swift manner. So we are taking seamless the policies so that we will protect the lives and economy of Japan. And whatever happens, we address that. We have a 5.5 trillion yen. The reserve fund is secured in the budget that was compiled, and we think about executing them. About going forward, we look at the price and the economy. Based on that, we take swift and comprehensive measures in a seamless manner. Therefore, the reserve fund will be used in a flexible manner, and we take into account of the situation, and we will make a decision.
Next, of Yomiuri. Tani, please, from Yomiuri. I'm Kaya from Yomiuri. Thank you. One of the top priorities is fundamentally strengthening defense capabilities. You have mentioned that you like to inherit the political will of former Prime Minister Abe. He has mentioned that to explicitly actually specify, in fact, in 5 years' time, to actually raise defense spending to 2% of GDP. On the discussions that are to take full course from now onwards on defense capabilities, do you think that you should advance based on this intention or will that was expressed by former Prime Minister Abe? Defense Minister Kishi, in fact, is now assigned as a special advisor or aide to yourself. Could you tell us the reason? First, the security situation is becoming more difficult to address, and we have no time to spare, which is my recognition. By the end of this year, in this situation, the new national security strategy will be formulated, and Japan's defense capabilities within 5 years would be fundamentally strengthened, as I've mentioned from the past. In doing so, the so-called responsive strike capabilities, what is necessary, we will take realistic studies without excluding anything, and at the same time we will further strengthen our capabilities as well as deterrence between Japan and the United States. As I've said from the past, towards the end of this year, the national security strategy, which is included in the 3 documents to be documented, and we will advance on discussions on the budget as well. And in these discussions, as you have pointed out, former Prime Minister Abe's various viewpoints will be referred to and will be on our minds to further deepen discussions. And the past Defense Minister Kishi has been assigned as my special aide or advisor. Past Defense Minister Kishi, the reason, as you've asked, definitely we'd like to have him provide his in-depth knowledge as well as expertise in defense, and therefore in the position as a special advisor to the Prime Minister in charge of defense, I have asked him, and he has accepted it.
京都新聞の国定
国定さん from 京都新聞 I am Kunisada from Kyoto Shimbun newspaper. Let me ask about state funeral of former Prime Minister Abe. It was a very sad assassination. It has been a month since then. And looking at the public poll by the media outlets, we have more people who have the objection. So there's a question about using public funds to cover the cost of the state funeral. And some public polls, more than 50%, are opposing to the state funeral. So how do you see and why do you think there are people who are against having a state funeral? I want to know your opinion. And also, if the opinions are divided, then there's a concern for the division. So so the joint funeral of the cabinet and the party. So do you have that as an option? Are you going to consider such an option? You asked about the state funeral for former Prime Minister Abe. As you pointed out, yes, we are aware of the wide range of the opinions. First of all, about the former Prime Minister Abe, he has served as a Prime Minister for the 8 years and 8 months, longest serving Prime Minister. He exerted the strong leadership. As a Prime Minister, he was tasked with the very important task, and also he passed away during an election which represents the democracy. This is unprecedented. And about his achievements, reconstruction from the Great Eastern Earthquake, and also the diplomacy with the Japan-U.S. alliance as a cornerstone. He has left a lot of legacy achievements. And from Japan and from overseas, we have received high level of recognition and condolences. And in some countries, in national assemblies or the Congress, there was a unanimous resolution for the condolences for former Prime Minister Abe. And also, there was a decision about the mourning his death. And in some countries, and the country's landmark or public the facilities, they used red and white with lights to show the respect and condolences. So as you can see, international communities are showing condolences and respect for the former Prime Minister Abe. Based on that, the respect and condolences should be shown to the individual as a state, and it should be held as the official event. And we invite representatives from other countries. That is the appropriate way of holding a funeral. So that was the decision. You also asked about the question of using public funds or government's funds. About the details, that is still under coordination. So we make sure we give a thorough explanation. So this is what the government is thinking. We continue such efforts, and that is the basic policy of the government.
There is only time for 2 questions. Tay, please. I am Tay from in charge of covering China. In fact, Minister Takaichi, who has been appointed as Economic Security Minister in the past, has exchanged views in meeting in the past. President Tai Ing-wen of Taiwan, and has actually expressed our interest in the situation in Taiwan as well as in Hong Kong. What are your specific expectations of why you have assigned Minister Takaichi and Chip 4, which is been the focus of economic security policy as a alliance for semiconductors that include Japan, U.S., Taiwan, and Korea, collaborating in IT. What is your view on this? In fact, economy as well as security is integrated. And at the same time, international situation is becoming more harsh. We need to prevent leakage of technology, critical technology or sensitive technology, as well as we must urgently address the issue of further strengthening economic security. Minister Takaichi, directly before this ministerial position, she has led the Economic Security Headquarters as a executive at LDP. And she has been at the center of economic security policy, so definitely we want the minister to exert leadership in this area. Semiconductor supply is supported by global supply chains, and therefore no single country can manage in realistic terms this matter. And for this reason, in order to secure a stable supply of semiconductors, we need to further develop our foundation at home for industry, and we also need to collaborate at the same time with other partners. And in May at the U.S.-Japan summit, we have set up and agreed to having a joint task force. And at the Economic 2+2 just recently, we will further, we have agreed further to provide substance to specifics. And your question was, what are my thoughts on this collaboration? On international collaboration, we will further continue to discuss with the related partners abroad. This is the current state.
次の方、じゃあジャパンタイムズ P さん。
We take a question from Japan Times. Will Fee from Japan Times. So the infection in Japan is now the highest in the world. There's a restriction of the tourists from the overseas, and it is really losing the substance of preventing the infection in such a way. Are there any plan to relax the restriction for the entry in the country? For response to the COVID-19, we continue to stay vigilant at the maximum level for the infection. At the same time, we take a phased manner to restart social and economic activities. That is the basic stance of the government. And the border measures to prevent spread of the infection and the economic activities, we strike a balance. So in order to achieve smooth entry on par with other countries, yes, we would like to take measures toward the relaxation of the restriction. That being said, about specific measures, we look at the needs home and abroad and also quarantine structure. We take them into consideration. And also we look at the infection in Japan and outside of Japan. Based on that, we would like to make appropriate decisions. So the measures against the spread of the disease and also the societal and economic activities, we strike a balance between them. Based on a basic principle, as much as possible, in order to achieve the entry that is the same level with the G7. Basically, yes, we would like to really relax the restrictions going forward. That will conclude today's press conference. Those who are raising a hand, you can send one question each to the Secretariat team so that we can answer the question via document. Thank you for your understanding and support.